Greetings, everyone. This evening we embark on a journey through the undeniable truths of the Middle Ages. Those tales that echo through dinner conversations, grace the screens of documentaries, and find their way into the lessons of high school history classes. That is entirely mistaken. Before you settle in, I invite you to take a moment to show your appreciation by liking the video and subscribing, but only if my storytelling resonates with you. I'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments where you're joining us from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's truly captivating to witness the diverse souls gathering from every corner of the globe. Now, let's lower the lights, perhaps switch on a fan to create a gentle background hum. Prepare to embark on tonight's adventure together. Among the many enduring tales of the Middle Ages, one stands out as particularly stubborn: the notion that people believed the earth was as flat as a serving tray, ready to send any daring sailor plummeting into the abyss like a medieval lemming. Before them lies a scene ripe with anticipation as anxious sailors lean over the ship's edge, their hearts racing at the thought of encountering dragons or facing the abyss below. Regrettably for that vivid scene, scholars of the medieval era were already aware that the earth was spherical. Indeed, they had been aware for ages. The ancient Greeks meticulously gauged it using sticks, shadows, and mathematics, akin to achieving a Nobel Prize with nothing more than a ruler and a dash of sunlight. In the 3rd century BCE, Tosthenes embarked on a remarkable journey of discovery, and his ingenious method continued to be shared and revered throughout the Middle Ages. Thus, your typical monk was not lying awake at night, gripped by fear of cosmic cliffs. The flat earth myth gained traction due to 19th century authors who sought to portray the medieval era as an extended performance of ignorance. Washington Irving's biography of Columbus depicted the explorer as a bold figure, courageously challenging the skeptics of his time who believed the world was flat. The true debate during Columbus's era wasn't about whether the earth was round. But what is the true scale of it? Columbus, in his limited understanding, believed the world was far smaller than it truly was. His miscalculation had the Americas not stood in his path, could have led him to a grim fate, lost and starving in the vastness of the Pacific. Even the most ordinary sailors were aware of the earth's gentle curve. They beheld the masts vanish beyond the horizon, leaving the hull to follow in their wake. One doesn't require an advanced degree to observe this, unless one is deliberately choosing to overlook it. In the realm of medieval artistry, one could find depictions of globes cradled in the hands of Christ, while kings struck poses with them, as if they were the pioneers of geography itself. It's not an action one would take if they fancied themselves the sovereign of the grandest frisbee on the planet. Yes, the timeless vision that dances in the mind's eye. In the days of yore, each soul of the medieval realm was often seen as a grimy, flea-infested being, harboring a deep-seated dread of water as if it were a sorcerous curse. It is said that they wandered the streets, carrying with them the unmistakable scent of damp wool and unfulfilled dreams. It's an amusing depiction, yet akin to that absurd flat earth theory, it's fundamentally incorrect. In truth, the bathing habits of medieval Europeans were far more frequent than commonly believed. In towns of Europe, public bathhouses thrived as vibrant social centers, where townsfolk gathered to exchange the latest gossip, forge business agreements, and, on occasion, indulge in extra services for a small fee. One might say that certain bathhouses served as the medieval counterpart to a comprehensive spa experience, and we shall leave it at that. In the heart of rural landscapes, the act of washing was not an uncommon sight. In the tapestry of life, rivers flowed, lakes shimmered, and barrels stood proudly in courtyards, each fulfilling its own vital role. In a time long past, there was a soap crafted from the humble ingredients of animal fat and lye. Though it lacked the charm of lavender-scented artisanal creations, it fulfilled its purpose with steadfast reliability. In a world where discipline reigned supreme, monks adhered to their meticulous washing rituals, while the elite basked in the luxury of private bathrooms. Indulging in the warmth of heated water, the noble class of the medieval era was not merely idle, wallowing in their own filth. They ordered intricate baths, infused with delightful fragrances, often featuring herbs such as rosemary, sage, and mint. In essence, they were practicing the art of aromatherapy in medieval times, long before it became a luxury in today's wellness boutiques. What is the reason behind the legend? Let the future bear the weight of responsibility. In the time of the Renaissance, particularly following the 16th century, the understanding of medicine began to evolve, leading to the belief that bathing would open the pores and allow harmful air to enter the body. It is quite fascinating to note that, in a twist of fate, individuals from later periods engaged in bathing, less frequently than those who lived in the medieval times. In the grand tapestry of history, one might find that a typical baker of the 14th century maintained a level of cleanliness that would surpass that of a 17th century French courtier, albeit with a fragrance more reminiscent of freshly baked bread than the allure of costly cologne. Indeed, bathing was not always synonymous with a thorough scrub of the entire body. At times, it was merely about cleansing the face, hands, and any other parts deemed essential to maintain decorum. However, the notion that they completely shunned water is merely a careless distortion of history. Even the humble folk found a way to embrace the rainwater, which poured down freely and cleanly, cascading upon them whether they welcomed it or not. The notion that medieval individuals were all diminutive, akin to insects, stands as one of history's most careless misconceptions. If it were true, jousting tournaments would resemble feisty little ones attempting to nudge each other off their trusty steeds. The reality? In the medieval era, the average height of men was approximately 170 centimeters, while women stood at around 160 centimeters, not colossal beings, yet undeniably too substantial to conceal within a wine barrel, although a few might have attempted such a feat during the taxing season. In the depths of the earth, archaeologists have unearthed a trove of skeletons, revealing a fascinating truth. The Middle Ages were home to a remarkable number of tall individuals, particularly among those who enjoyed the privileges of a well-fed existence. Knights were not precisely bending low to avoid the doorways, yet they were also not causing a ruckus with their helmets against the frames. Amidst the tapestry of history, a veil of confusion arises from the intricate designs of medieval architecture. Low doorways were crafted not for those of smaller stature, but rather to minimize the escape of warmth. In the age of castles and cobblestones, the artisans of stone and timber grasped the art of keeping warmth within their walls far more than they did the nuances of cleanliness. If it meant that one had to endure the occasional bump on the head while reaching for provisions, then such was the price of their craft. Beds were indeed shorter, as individuals frequently rested in a half-upright position, believing this would shield them from the suffocating vapors that lurked in the night. Indeed, had you been inhaling the air of the medieval times, concerns about vapors would surely cross your mind. In a world where the nobility feasted on sumptuous meats, creamy dairy, and exotic imports, they towered above the peasants, who subsisted on humble bread and cabbage. Chroniclers, driven by the desire to satisfy their patrons, embellished the grandeur of royal statues in their narratives. In certain tales, kings towered like majestic cathedral spires, a sight to behold, until one considers that these very chroniclers also asserted the sovereign could slay a boar with nothing but a fierce gaze. Indeed, while inadequate nutrition, illness, and harsh toil may have hindered the growth of some individuals, the broader narrative is much richer and more diverse than the simplistic image of the diminutive medieval man implies. In the bustling scene, one could spot the tall, lean guards standing watch, the sturdy masons laboring away, and a handful of market women whose fierce demeanor could easily send you sprawling if you dared inquire about their husbands' whereabouts. Indeed, the medieval world was not filled with a collection of human curiosities. They were individuals not so different from ourselves, though they faced challenges with dental hygiene and possessed a remarkable ability to endure chilly breezes. According to the narrative spun by high school history textbooks from half a century past, the Middle Ages emerge as a thousand-year void, a darkened chapter nestled between the grandeur of the Roman Empire and the brilliance of the Renaissance. Without creativity, without knowledge, without advancement, merely humble folk working the earth, while the learned debated the ethereal on the finest of points. In truth, Medieval Europe was a vibrant tapestry of thought and creativity. In this remarkable era, the world witnessed the rise of universities, the grandeur of Gothic cathedrals, the invention of mechanical clocks, and an abundance of philosophical debates that would rival even the most vibrant discussions of today's internet forums. The thoughts of people continued to flow even after the fall of Rome. They pondered various matters, such as the best ways to prevent their soup from freezing in the depths of January, or the ethical implications of charging interest on a loan. The shadowy label emerges in part from the later Renaissance scribes, who reveled in self-flagellation. By portraying the Middle Ages as a cultural abyss, they could illuminate their own era as a radiant sunrise. Familiar tale unfolds. To elevate your own offering, one must cast shadows upon the rivals. Regrettably, the smear campaign took hold. But we mustn't overlook the challenge of illumination. In the flickering glow of candlelight during reenactments, we glimpse the medieval interiors, and our minds conjure the notion that they existed in a world shrouded in darkness. In reality, they possessed windows, oil lamps, and torches that flickered with a warm glow. Indeed, it was shrouded in a gloom that surpassed the brightness of your typical lead-lit kitchen. And yet, amidst the passage of time, individuals found a way to read, write, and craft manuscripts so elaborate that they could leave your eyes weary from their beauty. Life in the Middle Ages was far from dull. It was a tapestry of vibrant tales and vivid experiences. In grand arenas, valiant knights clad in shining armor clashed with fierce determination, their mighty blows echoing as they sought to best one another in the thrilling spectacle of sport. Wandering performers dazzled audiences with their acrobatics, melodies, and humor, some of which would surely earn a ban from YouTube, in the bustling heart of the marketplace. A symphony of sounds filled the air, where one could procure a plump chicken, enlist the services of a skilled scribe, and even endure the sharp tug of a tooth extraction, all within the same lively street. Indeed, there were those lengthy, quiet winters when the world seemed to pause, filled only with whispers and hearty stew, yet such is the nature of any time period. In those times, the people of the medieval era lacked the luxury of television to divert their attention. Instead, they conjured intricate games, spun tales, from time to time, orchestrated a festival so exuberant that the church had to intervene. In the annals of history, a curious notion took root, that medieval Europeans subsisted solely on a diet of boiled cabbage and the weight of their own regrets. This perspective arises partly from the tendency of contemporary historians to concentrate on the diets of peasants, while it's true that their meals weren't exactly gourmet. To assert that all medieval food was tasteless is akin to evaluating today's culinary landscape based solely on gas station sandwiches. The truth. In the heart of the medieval kitchen, one could encounter dishes so richly adorned with spices that even the most discerning palate might feel compelled to voice its grievances. Cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, ginger. These were not the exclusive treasures reserved for grand celebrations among the privileged. They were immersed in meat, fish, and even wine with the fervor of a teenager discovering cologne for the first time. The allure of spices. They were not merely costly. They were the crown jewels of the medieval table, a mark of prestige, akin to flaunting a sleek sports car in your grand dining hall. And it was more than mere flavor. In the grand halls of noble households, cooks reveled in the vibrant hues and dazzling displays of their culinary creations. A roasted peacock could be presented with its feathers intact for theatrical flair, while a meat pie might surprise diners. With live birds that take flight upon being sliced open, a primitive incarnation of dinner theater, albeit likely a source of great fright for the birds. Delightful pairings of sweetness and savoriness captured the hearts of many. Imagine a dish where meat mingles with the sweetness of dried fruits and honey. It may sound peculiar at first, but then again, you've likely savored the delightful combination of pineapple on pizza. Even the everyday people found their own delightful methods to spice up their meals. With ale flowing, onions sizzling, and the fragrant touch of herbs like parsley and sage, along with the savory delight of preserved fish, the meal transformed into a vibrant feast, breaking the monotony of a bread-heavy diet. Indeed, At times, a variety simply implied that this bread had gone a bit moldy, yet it remained fit for consumption. With a little scraping, yet amidst the shadows, there were glimmers of hope. Amidst the vibrant seasonal fairs and bustling markets, one could stumble upon delightful treasures, such as imported almonds, or, if fortune smiled upon you, a delectable slice of candied ginger. True monotony settled in during periods of want, when famines, sieges, or harsh winters left the cabbage barrel empty. In that moment, meals transformed into mere survival rations. Yet, in the days of plenty, the art of medieval cooking blossomed into a tapestry of vibrant flavors. It's often delightfully daring and occasionally startling in its creativity. In a distant realm, the cinematic world concluded that a knight clad in gleaming plate armor resembled a vulnerable tin can, teetering about until fate intervened, toppling them like an unwieldy refrigerator. You've glimpsed the vision. A knight finds himself sprawled on his back, unable to rise, resembling an overturned turtle as his opponent stands by, patiently biding time to deliver the final blow. Time for a moment of truth. Imagine a suit of plate armor, expertly crafted and tailored to fit just right, weighing in at around 45 to 60 pounds. It's akin to donning a hiking backpack filled to the brim, but rather than feeling the burden on your shoulders, the load is balanced across your entire being. In the days of yore, the craftsmen of metal did not toil to create mere prisons of iron. In a world where survival hinged on the clash of steel, they dedicated themselves to ensuring your life remained intact. As you faced off against those intent on your demise, knights possessed the remarkable ability to run, leap, and mount their steeds with grace, and indeed, they could even perform somersaults with flair. Surviving training manuals reveal a vivid picture of fully armored fighters engaged in grappling, rolling, and wrestling as if they were performers in a grand medieval spectacle. Give that a go in your jeans and let me know who feels more confined. What is the origin of the tale of the Turtle Knight? In the annals of history, one notable factor emerges: a tournament style from the 15th century, where brave contestants donned extra layers of armor, heavier, bulkier, crafted solely for the art of jousting. Indeed, that left you as nimble as a garden shed, yet it was far from being combat armor. That was the gear of the time, much like the protective armor worn by a modern American football player. One wouldn't assess a sprinter's swiftness by observing an individual clad in a mascot outfit, would they? Another character in this tale is the Victorian-era reenactments. In the 19th century, medieval armor took on a life of its own, often adorned with intricate designs, yet ill-fitted for the wearer. Crafted from heavier steel, these pieces were more suited for display than the rigors of battle. Imagine a stout, somewhat clumsy gentleman placed into one of those contraptions, moving about like a broken wind-up toy. And then we have the contemporary television shows that seem to believe a slow, awkward knight provides more comedic value than a swift, perilous one. In all honesty, if knights had truly been as awkward as popular tales portray, the Middle Ages would have been a fleeting chapter in history. For no one emerges unscathed from a battlefield while sprawled on the ground like a helpless beetle, awaiting salvation. In truth, armor did not render one immobile. It instilled a boldness within you, the sort that empowers you to stride into a duel with a sword, believing, "I've got this." Instead of fretting, "I hope my will is current." According to popular films, the medieval Catholic Church was home too, a peculiar group dedicated solely to the fiery destruction of books, casting disapproving looks at astronomers and accusing anyone wielding a magnifying glass of heresy. What a striking scene it is. The somber monks shattering telescopes in a mesmerizing slow-motion dance, as flashes of lightning illuminate the tempest outside. Alas, the truth leans more towards the realm of funding agencies than the thrill of inquiry. Indeed, there were instances where the church found itself at odds with certain concepts, and one might recall Galileo's experiences. However, the broad notion that the medieval church outright prohibited science is as misleading as claiming that all medieval peasants resided in mud huts throughout the year. In those times, a significant number of individuals engaged in the pursuit of science were, in fact, members of the clergy. In a time long past, Monks diligently transcribed the wisdom of ancient Greek and Arabic manuscripts, while also tending to observatories and delving into the mysteries of medicine. Yet, amidst these noble pursuits, it was their passion for brewing beer that truly captured their hearts, a delightful experiment they cherished above all. In the era of the Middle Ages, the institutions of learning known as universities emerged, primarily established and supported by the Church, serving as the cradle for much of the scientific inquiry of the time. These were not mere weekend gatherings. They were well-organized establishments, cultivating minds that engaged in profound discussions on astronomy, mathematics, optics, and anatomy. The tale of the medieval Dark Ages is woven from the threads of Enlightenment writers who believed that by casting shadows on the Middle Ages, they could illuminate the brilliance of their own time. It may come as a surprise, but the art of clever marketing has roots that stretch far back in time. The Church didn't oppose science. Rather, it sought to ensure that it aligned with specific philosophical and theological frameworks. Now, should you wish to assert that the earth is round, there would be no contention. Learned minds have recognized this truth since ancient times. To suggest that the earth wasn't the center of the universe was to stir the pot of cosmic order, a notion that could lead to some rather uncomfortable conversations at dinner gatherings in Rome. It is important to highlight that a significant part of Europe's scientific legacy endured largely due to the efforts of church institutions that safeguarded it. Without those diligent monks in the chilly scriptoria, many of Aristotle's works could have been consumed by mice and mildew. Had it not been for the Church's quest to determine the date of Easter, medieval Europe may have found itself trailing. Centuries behind in the realm of astronomy, you've likely come across it in a quirky history meme. But during the Middle Ages, the average life expectancy was just 30 years. Picture a humble villager reveling in the joy of his 29th birthday as though it were a grand farewell to toil and labor. The truth, however, somewhat less dramatic and far less entertaining for those who marvel at their supposed pre-Narvinery. The notorious 30, a figure that represents an average, a tale woven into the fabric of numbers. Averages can be quite deceptive, can't they? When we consider averages, we embrace the entirety of humanity, even the tiniest among us. And here comes the twist. The harsh realities of infant mortality during medieval times were nothing short of devastating. Many young souls faced the harsh realities of life, with countless not making it past their tender 5 years, falling victim to the grips of disease, the pangs of famine, or the perilous allure of open wells that beckoned their innocent curiosity. The untimely departures cast a shadow over the average, pulling it down into the depths. Surviving the trials of childhood meant you had a fair shot at reaching your 50s, or even 60s. As long as you steered clear of wars, plagues, and the occasional treacherous dagger lurking in the shadows of political intrigue, in the annals of medieval history, one can find a tapestry woven with the voices of those who, having traversed the years, lamented the ways of the youth in the elegant tongue of Latin. The notion that all succumbed by the age of 30 overlooks the remarkable lives of seasoned monarchs, bishops, farmers, and artisans who thrived well beyond that age. Even the humble folk, with their simple lives, found a way to embrace the passage of time and reach the twilight of their years. In the depths of time, the remnants of lives long past whisper tales through their skeletal remains, each worn down tooth, each healed fracture, and the signs of arthritis tell a story of resilience and survival in a world that was often harsh and unforgiving. Obvious indicators of individuals who have journeyed through the years, gathering tales and experiences. Along the way, what is it that keeps us clinging to the tale of the young and untimely demise of so many? It adds a layer of intrigue to history, and let's be honest. Mentioning an average of 30 doesn't quite captivate the crowd like the tale of High Child. Mortality does at cocktail parties. Let me share a contemporary comparison. Imagine a world where, in a single day, every toddler mysteriously disappeared. It's a dark thought, I admit, but bear with me, the average age of the population would soar to astonishing heights. On the other hand, should a third of all infants meet their end at birth, the average would take a nosedive, despite the fact that the surviving adults might still be tending to their gardens at the age of 75. In essence, the people of the medieval era were not fleeting creatures of mere moments. They didn't reach the age of 30 and suddenly perish like a character in a dramatic saga. In a time when life was fraught with challenges and the art of healing was still in its infancy, surviving the perilous game of childhood was akin to winning a fierce battle. Those who emerged unscathed from this tumultuous journey often found themselves on the path to wisdom, destined to become the revered elder of the village. If one were to take cues from the films, it seems every medieval village had a designated day for witch burnings, conveniently scheduled right after the market and just before the local tavern opened its doors. Yet, in spite of the blazing tales that have emerged, medieval Europe was not truly ablaze with unending witch fires illuminating the night sky. Indeed, the majority of the grand witch burnings unfolded after the Middle Ages during the early modern era. Imagine, if you will, a journey through time to the 1300s, where the anticipation of witnessing a witch trial dances in your mind. Yet, upon arrival, you might find yourself less enthralled and more likely to be enlisted in the mundane task of repairing a wagon wheel. In the earlier centuries, the medieval church held a surprisingly skeptical view of witchcraft. In the 10th and 11th centuries, the prevailing narrative suggested that many witches were merely misguided souls, or unfortunate victims of their own superstitions. Some church manuals boldly declared that the belief in the supernatural powers of witches was, in fact, heresy, a captivating turn of events, where the witch hunters find themselves in a precarious situation. Indeed, there were times when prosecutions occurred, yet burning was not the preferred approach. In times gone by, the fates of individuals often rested upon the gallows, banishment, or the age-old spectacle of public disgrace. In the days of yore, the flicker of flames came at a steep price, and the townsfolk of the medieval era were far from inclined to squander precious timber on a neighbor who whispered incantations over their herbs. It was during the late 15th to 17th centuries that the fervor for witch-burning truly ignited. Driven by a potent blend of religious strife, societal anxiety, and the advent of the printing press which disseminated the Malleus Maleficarum, veritable manual for identifying witches crafted by an individual. During the medieval era, whispers of sorcery frequently stemmed from the tangled web of politics and personal vendettas rather than the arcane arts themselves. When your sheep vanished into thin air, your thoughts turned to that neighbor you had always found unlikable. When the harvest fell short, fingers pointed at the cantankerous old woman who shunned the church. And if your husband strayed, perhaps that captivating young widow down the way had cast her spell on him. Isn't it just delightful, all the act of witch-burning has come to symbolize the harshness of the medieval era? It's akin to holding the 1990s responsible for the rise of TikTok. In an era that feels misplaced, with tools that seem out of sync, the age-old fears remain unchanged. In the tapestry of the medieval era, where shadows danced with the flicker of candlelight, many true horrors lurked in the corners of history. Yet, the relentless pyres for spellcasters were not among them. In essence, the tales of medieval witches were more often woven through whispers than through flames. The tales around the bonfire emerged later thanks to a Europe that boasted superior printing, lesser paranoia, and an abundance of leisure time. According to popular culture, medieval peasants appeared as mere figures of mud, silent and without power, merely existing until a knight would ride past them on the way to a grand tournament. The reality? They possessed a range of rights that often go unrecognized, though they might not be the kind one would showcase on a dating profile. Indeed, while peasants occupied the lowest rung of the feudal hierarchy, it did not render them legally invisible. In a time when many were tied to the soil as serfs, they nonetheless possessed acknowledged rights within the manorial courts. Think of them as local legal gatherings. Devoid of velvet ropes, yet brimming with lively debates over pigs and other matters of the land, in these courts peasants found a chance to contest fines, resolve disputes, and, in certain instances, take their lord to task. Yet, achieving victory felt much like trying to outstare the sun. They were granted the age-old privileges, the ability to collect firewood, allow their animals to roam freely on shared pastures, or cast their lines in designated rivers. The commons stood as a lifeline, fiercely guarded by those who understood their vital importance for survival. Attempt to strip a humble villager of their right to collect fallen branches, and you may find yourself greeted by the unsettling sight of your hayrick ablaze come morning. While taxes and dues weighed heavily, they often came with a sense of certainty. The humble peasants understood their dues and occasionally found a way to bargain, a skill that seems lost on today's internet. Providers. And though they were bound to serve their lord, there existed boundaries to their obligations. The lord couldn't simply command you to construct a moat just because he found himself feeling restless on a Tuesday. And then there's the tale that peasants remained bound to their village, forever tethered to the same patch of earth. In truth, countless souls ventured to bustling markets, lively fairs, and distant towns in search of seasonal labor. The path lay open before them, demanding only patience, consent, and the strength to overlook each inviting tavern along the journey. Indeed, medieval peasants were not existing in a realm devoid of legal structure, where the lord could act with impunity and without repercussions. What may seem trivial to our eyes held immense significance in their realm, deserving of fierce protection, even if it meant risking life itself, or at the very least enduring until the harvest was complete. The enduring myth of no rights captivates with its simplicity and drama, yet the tapestry of real medieval life is woven with far greater nuance. Peasants were not merely subjects. They were active participants in the intricate dance of feudal exchange. And in the grand tapestry of the game, the rules were woven in, though it often seemed the house held the upper hand. If you, and no, I don't mean from the remnants left behind after a battle. Once upon a time, castles stood proudly, their walls adorned with vibrant, dazzling hues that caught the eye and stirred the imagination. Walls can be adorned in a myriad of ways, from the bright gleam of whitewash catching the sunlight, to the playful dance of stripes or the vibrant stories told through murals. Imagine a vibrant tapestry of colors, where the shadows of despair are replaced by the bright hues of joy, reminiscent of a medieval scene captured through a cheerful lens. Even the sturdy stone walls, when laid bare, would occasionally be adorned with hues to bestow upon them a cozier appearance. It appears that those from the medieval era had no desire to inhabit a world reminiscent of the bleak and shadowy landscapes depicted in Game of Thrones. They sought a place that radiated grandeur, not gloom. Within, the spectacle intensified, dazzling the senses in the grand halls. Vibrant tapestries hung gracefully, serving not merely as adornments but as guardians against the chill. Concealing the imperfections left by the mason's hands, emblazoned banners fluttered in the air, intricate wooden ceilings whispered tales of craftsmanship, and vibrant shields adorned the walls, each a brushstroke in the grand tapestry of the scene. The floors could be adorned with elaborate designs or covered with freshly laid rushes. So while those rushes might conceal some unspeakable remnants, they were, in theory, replaced on a regular basis. Even the furniture was adorned with paint and gold leaf. In the realm of furniture, chairs, chests, and beds emerged as canvases, intricately carved and adorned with vibrant hues of reds, blues, and shimmering golds. Should you find yourself stepping into the bedchamber of a medieval noble, prepared for greystone and minimalism, you might just find yourself squinting in surprise. What leads us to believe that castles held an air of gloom? Partly due to the way paint fades and plaster crumbles, revealing the raw, unadorned stone beneath. Archaeology reveals the vibrant past they once held, yet standing before a ruin is akin to encountering a legendary musician at the age of 80 and mistakenly believing they have always appeared that way. Yet one mustn't assume that castles were always warm and inviting. They stood as fortresses, with their drafty passages, uneven stairs, and an aroma that lingered between wood smoke and horse. Yet, in their design, they were crafted to awe friends, instill fear in foes, and serve as a constant reminder to the common folk of who held the power. In essence, medieval castles were vibrant and full of life, They stood as the grandest display, like a regal crown proclaiming one's lineage in vibrant hues. The desolation remains, a haunting reminder of what time has peeled away from the once vibrant facade of the medieval era. In the annals of history, few events loom as large as the Black Death, a catastrophic pandemic that claimed countless lives. It swept across Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Asia in the mid-14th century. An unwelcome spectacle that no one wished to experience. Yet the notion that it claimed the lives of half the world is quite a bold assertion. Even for a plague that led medieval physicians to believe that binding live chickens to one's armpits was a wise remedy. In reality, scholars believe it claimed the lives of 30% to 60% of Europe's population. It's a staggering figure that is chilling enough without exaggerating it to half the world. Whole villages vanished into the shadows. Trade routes fell into an unsettling silence, and one could likely acquire a home for the mere cost of a turnip. Imagine if you could discover someone still living who would be willing to part with it for you. Yet, what of the world beyond? It's not entirely heartbroken. While China and the Middle East faced tremendous hardships, Africa, the Americas, and much of Oceania remained unscathed. In the year 1347, a vast portion of the world remained blissfully unaware of Europe's existence, let alone the fact that it was engulfed in the throes of a devastating pandemic apocalypse. The idea that everyone was impacted is more of a theatrical embellishment, akin to asserting that every medieval knight was a noble hero, or that every princess had golden locks. In the shadow of the plague, the psychological toll on the afflicted lands was profound, weaving a tapestry of fear and despair that lingered long after the disease had passed. Folk spun tales of divine retribution, whispered of foul air, or pointed fingers at foreign traders bearing dubious wares. In a time long before the dawn of modern germ theory, the methods of prevention in the medieval era were as varied as they were curious. From the fragrant smoke of burning incense to the delicate blooms of posies carried close, each practice held its own charm. Yet, perhaps the most intriguing of all was the peculiar belief that bathing should be avoided altogether, for it was thought to open the pores to the malevolent air that lurked beyond. As it turns out, skipping a bath didn't quite do the trick. The plague wove its way through the fabric of economies, altering their very essence. In a time of struggle, the resilient peasants found themselves in a position to seek improved wages and working conditions. Their voices rising amidst the challenges they faced. Some even abandoned their decorum to seek opportunities elsewhere, whether by lawful means or not. This unexpected change in bargaining power was received by the nobility with as much enthusiasm as a rat swimming in their soup. In the grand tapestry of tales spun by Hollywood, one lesson stands out. During the Middle Ages, every legal quarrel could be settled by two warriors clashing with swords until one lay defeated, ideally amidst a downpour accompanied by a stirring score. In truth, trial by combat resembled a dazzling legal loophole, one that could be invoked in theory, yet remained largely untouched in practice. Once upon a time, there was a notion that was beautifully straightforward. Should you find yourself facing accusations of wrongdoing, a path to vindication lies in confronting your accuser directly. The belief was that the divine would smile upon the virtuous, a notion that seems admirable until one recalls that the outcome of such favor often mirrored the triumph of the stronger adversary. Indeed, this held true even in matters of civil contention. Picture this. You find yourself in a legal battle with your neighbor over a missing cow, only to end up in a muddy field, desperately dodging the risk of having your helmet crushed. Yet, the clash of swords in the arena was far from the courtroom drama of Judge Judy. In many lands, it was an uncommon practice, tightly controlled, and frequently substituted with alternative methods such as oaths, witness accounts, or the ever-popular trial by ordeal, which included daring feats like grasping scorching irons or submerging individuals in rivers. Engaging in battle came with a hefty price, fraught with peril, and could lead to some rather uncomfortable family dynamics, especially if your adversary was none other than your brother Dash and Dash Law. In the moments of its use, the rules danced in peculiar ways. In this realm, weapons were uniform, arenas were set apart for the grand contests, and the clock ticked down, adding a thrilling urgency to the battles that unfolded. And against the common notion, it wasn't always a fight to the finish at times. The clash concluded when one side found themselves too wounded to press on, or simply surrendered, coming to the realization that perhaps divine favor was not with them, after all. In the annals of history, a notable tale unfolds in 1386, where the fates of Jean de Courage and Jacques Legrasse clashed in a duel that would echo through time. Forever captured in the narrative of the last duel, it held great significance, particularly due to its rarity at that moment. When such trials occurred, they attracted massive audiences, for let's be honest, the entertainment choices in medieval times were scarce, and witnessing to furious nobles battling for divine judgment was akin to the Super Bowl. As the late Middle Ages unfolded, the once mighty trial by combat slipped into the shadows of legal history, becoming little more than a relic of a bygone era, intriguing yet distant. In England, it lingered in the legal texts until 1819, when a particularly astute defendant sought to invoke it. This prompted lawmakers to swiftly recognize the potential for mischief and decide it was best to eliminate that possibility before anyone else entertained such notions. Indeed, medieval courts were far more than mere spectacles of clashing armor and brute force. Most disagreements found resolution through the written word rather than through the clash of weapons, which is likely for the best. Many attorneys lacked the finesse to wield a blade, according to popular belief. The practice of medicine in medieval times revolved around the use of leeches, with the approach being to apply them until the patient either ceased their complaints or, tragically, their breathing. Indeed, the practice of bloodletting with leeches was once a notable occurrence. Yet that was merely a part of the tale, for medieval healers were not idle figures, passively awaiting the next slimy remedy to spring to life. In the tapestry of the Middle Ages, medicine wove together threads of ancient wisdom, time-honored folk remedies, celestial influences, and the daring spirit of experimentation, often venturing into the realm of the dubious. In the tapestry of healing, each figure wove their unique thread: physicians, apothecaries, midwives, and barber surgeons, all playing their part in the grand narrative of care. The healers donned flowing garments, their voices rich with the cadence of ancient tongues, seeking to captivate you with their eloquent Latin expressions. In the dimly lit corners of ancient shops, apothecaries crafted their wares, powders, and enigmatic potions. Some offered genuine relief, others merely a comforting illusion, while a few seemed to carry a warning that whispered of peril. In a time not so long ago, there existed a unique breed of practitioners known as barber surgeons. With a deft hand, they could transform your appearance by cutting your hair, alleviate your pain by pulling a tooth, and even perform the grave task of amputation, all within the span of a single appointment. Excellence in every detail, leeches played a role in a larger understanding of maintaining harmony among the four humors: crimson fluid, thick mucus, dark humor, and golden humor. Should you find yourself overwhelmed by an excess, your body would be thrown into disarray. And the remedy could require the dramatic measures of bloodletting, the forceful expulsion of contents, or a purgative potent enough to set a mill wheel in motion. Yet, the practice of medicine in the medieval era was not merely a series of attempts and missteps. Ancient remedies such as willow bark for alleviating pain, garlic for combating infections, and honey for healing wounds have long been valued and continue to find their place in modern practices. In the realm of healing, hospitals guided by faith offered solace, where care often intertwined with heartfelt prayers and the comfort of a clean bed. In the realms of Islamic Spain and the Byzantine Empire, the art of medicine flourished with remarkable sophistication, showcasing intricate surgical manuals and precise anatomical illustrations. Yet Europe, it seemed, clung to the age-old theories of Galen, which had long since aged like fine wine, rather than embracing the innovations of the time. Indeed, certain treatments were utterly absurd, One might find themselves receiving a curious concoction crafted from the finest powdered emeralds, or perhaps advised to don the pelt of a deceased mole as a remedy for a persistent cough. Yet, within the chaos lay a certain logic, at least in their perception. And not every patient found themselves in a more dire state than when they first entered. In the grand tapestry of Hollywood's imagination, each medieval dawn bursts forth with the raucous call of a rooster, heralding a day filled with toil and sweat. Picture the relentless hours spent plowing through the muck, hands aching and weary, only to culminate in a fate as grim as a plague's embrace or the fiery fate of a witch's trial. Ah, the Middle Ages, a time often painted as a relentless saga of suffering, with brief interludes of public executions to momentarily elevate the gloom. Indeed, life was far from a serene escape. In a world where famine loomed, war raged, disease spread, and the shadow of Viking raids occasionally darkened the horizon, life was fraught with peril. However, the notion that all souls wandered about in a constant state of gloom, eyes fixed on the ground while letting out heavy sighs, is, quite frankly, a tale as old as time, and not a very compelling one at that. In the heart of the medieval era, laughter echoed through the air, songs filled the streets, and jokes were shared like treasured secrets. Celebrations erupted at every opportunity, with festivals so lively and spirited that they would put today's music gatherings to shame, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. Weddings were not mere formalities. They transformed into vibrant celebrations that stretched over days, filled with joyous dancing, sumptuous feasting, and an abundance of wine that could easily make you overlook the fact that the groom's family still had a debt of 3 goats to settle. Even the humble folk found moments for sports, games, and intricate holiday customs, for when one lives without the comforts of Wi-Fi, one might as well master the art of archery. Ah, the food. Contrary to the tale of monotonous meals, a vibrant array of seasonal produce, meats, breads, cheeses, and even exotic spices graced the tables of many. Indeed, while not all were indulging in roast swan sprinkled with saffron, they were far from subsisting on a broth of despair. Creativity in art, music, and narrative flourished. Individuals crafted exquisite garments, shaped detailed wood creations, and shared grand narratives, not out of boredom, but because the essence of beauty held significance. The notion that existence revolves solely around survival is a construct of contemporary skepticism, peering through blurred lenses of the past. Indeed, the statistic regarding average lifespan often circulates to suggest that life was brief and filled with hardship, yet this figure is distorted by the prevalence of high infant mortality rates. Once you navigate the journey of childhood, the path ahead often leads you into your 60s. A span ample enough to cultivate thoughts and musings about the neighbor's sheep in the tapestry of medieval life. One could find not only struggles, but also threads of joy, humor, music, and love woven intricately together. The myriad treasures that illuminate the journey of existence. Those who believe the Middle Ages were solely a time of suffering are often the same individuals who think that people of that era never took a bath. Reveal ahead. They certainly did, though perhaps not as frequently as one might hope. On the vast Mongolian steppe, where the earth unfurls endlessly and the horizon appears as the boundary of existence, the arrival of a rider was always steeped in significance. It was a moment woven by destiny. For ages untold, the wandering Mongols held a profound belief that each visitor was a messenger from Tengir, the everlasting blue sky sent to challenge their honor. As the distant sound of hooves stirred the air, the atmosphere within the Jur, the cozy felt-covered yurt transformed in an instant. The warmth of Mongolian hospitality transcended mere social niceties. It was a revered duty. The expansive steppe unfolded before us, a realm of breathtaking beauty intertwined with lurking peril. Endless days of travel could stretch between one settlement and the next, and a single night exposed could spell doom. To withhold warmth, food, and safety from a traveler was to gamble with their life. And in the eyes of the Mongols, it was to beckon misfortune upon oneself, regardless of whether the guest was a relative, a traveling merchant, or even a former foe. The principle remained unchanged. You embraced them as though they had just returned from a distant journey, rekindling the warmth of a cherished bond. In this manner, hospitality transcended mere survival. It was a tale woven with threads of dignity. It wove a tapestry of shared humanity across the expansive void, connecting strangers through the simple joys of food, warmth, and mutual respect. In this vast expanse, where the winds whisper secrets, one can never truly tell if the visitor at your threshold might someday be a reflection of yourself. One of the most remarkable features of Mongol hospitality was its remarkable ability to overlook past grievances, a trait that left outsiders perplexed and even unsettled diplomats. In the tranquil realms beyond the vast steppe, the warmth of hospitality is often reserved for allies, merchants, or kin. Yet it is a rare occurrence indeed to extend such kindness to one who has once plundered your lands or stood against you in battle. Yet on the vast Mongolian plains, the essence of survival blurred these lines. The Mongols held on to their memories of past grievances, never letting them fade away. Rivalries could echo through the ages, and retribution was a treasured form of exchange. Yet amidst the harsh truths of a wandering existence, there existed a profound recognition that in this realm, the sacred principles of hospitality reigned supreme over individual conflicts, at least while a visitor dwelled within the jur. Picture a battle-hardened warrior, exhausted from days of travel, approaching the encampment of a man whose cousin he had once defeated in combat in a different realm. This could conclude with a dagger buried deep within the flesh. On the vast steppe, the journey culminated in a bowl of steaming mutton broth, a cozy bed by the hearth, and the warmth of shared tales that lingered late into the night. As he crossed the threshold of that enchanting doorway, the weight of enmity fell away, transforming him into a Zunakun, a being of the present. A wanderer embraced by the warmth of his host's guardianship, this hallowed moment of tranquility amidst conflict was, in part, a matter of necessity. To take the life of a guest was seen as a grave affront to Tenjur, a transgression that could tarnish a family's honor for countless generations. Yet, it was equally a question of honor. The more generous a man was, the further his name spread across the vast steppe, woven into the tales of those who had shared a meal by his fire. In Mongol culture, reputation held a significance akin to that of livestock, serving as a vital currency in their society. In this kindness, there lay a subtle yet profound calculation. A once hostile figure, having tasted the warmth of kindness and the comfort of sustenance, may hesitate to raise their weapon against you again in times to come. Or perhaps in a gesture of honor, he may take your goodwill back to his own people, soothing tensions without the need for a single arrow to be drawn. Thus, the Mongols engaged in a unique form of diplomacy, one that eschewed parchment treaties and royal seals in the flickering glow of firelight. With bread broken and shared, a tale unfolds, a testament to the idea that even in the most unforgiving terrain, the seeds of peace can sprout from something as simple as a cup of fermented mare's milk. The hospitality of the Mongols was a carefully woven tapestry of tradition and respect. It unfolded like a carefully crafted narrative, where every gesture held significance and every item resonated with purpose. As a guest drew near, the tale unfolded long before they stepped into the realm of the jur. Initially, the host would venture outside to welcome them, standing with an inviting demeanor yet never hurrying to approach. To rush might evoke a sense of urgency, while to remain too long within could feel distant. Harmony was paramount. Guest would be beckoned to dismount, while the host would gracefully take the reins. A gesture that signified both rider and steed were now entrusted to their stewardship. The door flap of the jur, ever oriented towards the south to embrace the sun's warm rays, was gently raised for the visitor. Within the space, the fire at the heart flickered with a steady glow, its smoke curling upward through the tuno, the circular, opening at the apex. As fire served a purpose beyond mere warmth. It embodied the spirit of the hearth, a vigilant guardian of the home. Guests were advised to tread lightly around it, never to cross over, for such an act would be a grave offense. Arrangement of seats spoke volumes without uttering a single word. Ah, the north side, a coveted spot directly across from the door, where the esteemed guest would find their rightful place of honor. In this sacred space, they would gather upon cushions or carpets, their gaze directed towards the warm hearth, and the welcoming entrance, embodying a sense of honor and safety. Weapons, when present, were either laid down gently or positioned clearly to the side, a quiet promise that no malice lingered in the air. Then arrived the gift of arog, the fermented mare's milk, gracefully poured into a silver or wooden bowl. The guest received it with both hands, a sign that they bore no concealed weapon. To turn down the drink was beyond imagination. It meant rejecting not merely the liquid itself, but the connection it represented. With it arrived bread, curds, or meat, varying with the host's fortune and the time of year. The dialogue unfolded gently, starting with well wishes and observations about the weather. Those familiar comforts that paved the way for more profound discussions. This ritual transcended mere politeness. It served as a testament to trust in a realm where trust was synonymous with survival. Every gesture, from the way the bowl was cradled to the choice of seating for the guest, wove a tapestry of belonging, creating a moment where, under this roof, they were truly at home. For the Mongols, these steps were not mere formalities. They were a vibrant connection to their ancestors, weaving the present into a rich tapestry of centuries-old tradition. On the vast expanse of the Mongolian steppe, a food transcended mere sustenance. It embodied a silent pact woven into the very fabric of life. To partake in a meal was to weave a bond of trust, and once you had gathered around another's fire, an unseen thread connected you that was not easily severed. This was particularly evident when the offering was arag, the fermented mare's milk that lay at the heart of nomadic hospitality. Arag transcended mere refreshment. Its crafting embodied the very heartbeat of the vast steppe. In the rhythm of daily life, mares were milked multiple times, their creamy bounty collected in a leather bag that swayed gently by the jeer's entrance. Each passerby would stir and churn the milk, a simple act weaving together the threads of community and tradition. This unending dance turned it into a subtly spirited, zesty elixir, both invigorating and emblematic. To embrace it was to embrace. The guardianship of the home to empty the bowl was to affirm that embrace. With the arag flowed the steadfast companions of the nomadic feast. Bortsog, those delightful small fried bread pieces, presented a crisp sweetness that danced playfully against the drink's sour tints. Arul, those sun-baked curds stood as a challenge. For the teeth, and a testament to the harshness of the steppe, crafted to endure the trials of lengthy travels. Should the family have recently taken the life of an animal, the guests could find themselves savoring a steaming bowl of mutton soup, lavishly infused with fat, paired with hearty noodles or delightful dumplings known as booze. The sequence of these foods presented held significance. AIRAG often took the lead. It was the first meeting, a moment where host and guest exchanged a firm handshake, setting the stage for the unfolding tale ahead. Loaves of bread or creamy curds, a comforting choice to soothe the belly. Meat stood as the pinnacle of respect. For livestock represented prosperity, and to present fresh meat signified that the host had willingly relinquished something precious. In your honor. Gathering around the table was a leisurely experience filled with moments to savor. The guest was warmly invited to indulge in seconds, even thirds, for a satisfied belly was a testament to the host's abundant hospitality in return. The visitor may bestow small tokens, perhaps a few tea bricks, a pouch of tobacco, or merely the assurance of future goodwill on another occasion. In this exchange, food and drink transformed into a rich tapestry of connection and meaning. They were a pact crafted in essence, comprehended beyond tongues and boundaries. In the expansive steppe, where the treasures of ink and parchment were scarce, those agreements held a timeless strength. The vast expanse of the Mongol steppe was always intertwined with the world beyond its horizons. It was a pivotal moment. Merchants traversing the Silk Road, Persian envoys on diplomatic missions, Chinese scholars in pursuit of knowledge, and even curious European travelers all arrived at the entrance of a Mongol jewer, their eyes adjusting to the inviting warmth of the hearth after enduring the relentless winds for days or weeks. And no matter where they came from, their beliefs, or how they looked, they were embraced by the same revered principles that united every wandering family. To those unfamiliar, this greeting might seem like something out of a dream. Picture a Venetian merchant, familiar with the wary glances of Mediterranean harbors, unexpectedly welcomed into a cozy, felt-lined abode far from the bustling trade. Roots, just as he was about to unveil his intentions, a steaming bowl of broth would find its way to him, accompanied by a hearty hunk of bread and a cup of arag, which, for those unfamiliar, might just jolt the senses. To decline was simply beyond consideration. The host's heart and soul were infused into that bowl. Numerous foreign guests remarked in their accounts that the hospitality of the Mongols was strikingly generous and without reservation. In that place there were no expectations for payment, no judgments cast upon your worthiness for the food or shelter provided. Thus, a discerning wanderer understood the importance of presenting a gesture of gratitude before embarking on their journey. Tea, cloth, beads, or perhaps a melody that whispers tales from their homeland. Such gestures fell short of expressing the warmth of the hospitality offered. They celebrated it with reverence. Obstacles of language seldom stood in the way. Customs of greeting, placing the visitor in the esteemed position, presenting nourishment with both hands and ensuring their cup was never empty, conveyed a message more profound than any spoken. Language, even the sequence of dishes, conveyed a sense of trust. First comes the arag, followed by the curds, and then the meat. As the real conversation unfolded, often facilitated by interpreters or a blend of gestures and common phrases, the groundwork of mutual respect had already been established. These encounters held a deeper significance, transcending mere acts of kindness. They were but strands woven into a grander tapestry. Traveler well cared for would weave tales of kindness through arid sands and vast oceans, enhancing the host's legacy far beyond the limits of their own journey. In a realm where renown spread swifter than legions, one gesture of hospitality held the strength of 100 champions. Therefore, the Mongols' willingness to embrace outsiders was far from innocent. It was a blend of strategy, spirituality, and profound humanity, intertwined in a captivating narrative. On the vast expanse of the Mongolian steppe, agreements were not inscribed with ink. They were savored in broth and enclosed in communal cups of arag. Hospitality transcended mere kindness. It was a tale of politics woven around the flickering flames of a fire. Visitor might come as a cautious envoy from a competing tribe, only to depart as a friend, forever tied by the echoes of kindness as much as by any verbal pact. In the quest for peace or collaboration, the initial step often unfolded outside the confines of a formal gathering. In place of that, the host clan would gather to create a grand feast. Horses would meet their fate, a lavish display, for their meat was saved for moments of great significance. The jur would be prepared to welcome the guests, with carpets and cushions fluffed to perfection in the finest, utensils shining brightly in the soft glow of the lamplight. The guests would find themselves in the esteemed position, directly facing the entrance, a quiet indication that they were embraced by the household's unwavering guardianship. The cuisine spoke volumes in the art of negotiation. The more abundant the array of meats, fresh dairy, and sweets, the more vivid the tale unfolds. This gathering holds great significance for us, and we possess the means to pay tribute to you. It's in Mongol culture to present anything less than your utmost at such a pivotal moment would be to reveal a lack of strength or commitment. Conversations during these gatherings flowed leisurely. Each word savored like a fine wine. They started with warm wishes and light conversation, gently guiding both parties into a state of ease. A skilled narrator might weave tales of the courage displayed by the guests' forebears, or share stories of common dangers posed by far-off clans. As the courses unfolded, cups were replenished time and again, and with each new round, the ambience grew ever more inviting. The boundary separating negotiation from celebration faded away. This ritual resonated profoundly, transcending the surface of mere words. The act of sharing food and shelter served as a powerful testament to the truth that life on the steppe hinged on the bonds of cooperation. Once you had shared a meal by someone's fire, the idea of aiming your bow at them became a burden that lingered heavily in your mind. As the last morsels were savored and the final toasts were made, the guests departed not just with satisfied appetites, but with bonds of allegiance that would linger long after the evening's festivities. The essence of understanding can range from a humble promise to exchange to a noble commitment of military support. Though no scroll captured these connections, they lived on in the heart, sustained by loyalty and the unwavering belief that future reunions would be greeted with the same embrace. Mongol hospitality transcended mere tradition. It was a masterful art of statecraft, intricately woven into the very essence of survival and dominance on the vast steppe. Stepping inside a Mongol jur was akin to crossing the threshold into a realm that transcended mere shelter, revealing a sacred space woven with unspoken laws and rich traditions. While a guest may receive a warm welcome, it does not grant them the freedom to act without regard for others. In the vast expanse of the steppe, the art of hospitality was woven into a sacred code, and to transgress it was to invite the ire of your host, or even the wrath of the spirits that watched over the home. At the very threshold, the most crucial rule took its form. Beware the wooden doorframe. It holds secrets untold. It was not merely a structure of wood. It represented the divide between the untamed wilderness beyond and the sacred refuge within. Stepping upon it was believed to summon ill fate, casting shadows not just over the visitor, but over the whole abode. Upon entering, the hearth stood as the very soul of the jur, held in profound respect. Guests always respected its boundaries, never daring to disturb its flames without consent, nor would they think to tarnish it with refuse. The fire danced with the essence of existence, its flickering flames intertwined with the boundless azure above, and to show it disrespect was to challenge the very deities themselves. The arrangement of seats whispered secrets of its own design. In the northern section, where the entrance beckoned, a special place was set aside for those esteemed guests of honor. In the grand tapestry of tradition, the west emerged as the domain of men, while the east gracefully unfolded as the realm of women. To occupy a seat uninvited, particularly in the wrong setting, was a transgression of social grace. When food or drink was presented, it was received with both hands and an eager heart, without a moment's pause. To decline was not merely impolite, it hinted at a lack of faith, though the guest might have cringed at Arag's sharp flavor or deemed the mutton overly rich. Tradition dictated that they should at least partake in a symbolic sip or bite. Whispering discontent about the meal, no matter how delicately, was always frowned upon. Amidst the grand tapestry, there existed smaller, subtler rules, woven delicately into the fabric of the tale. To point your feet toward the hearth was deemed disrespectful, much like the act of touching another's head, which was regarded as the most sacred part of the body. Weapons lay abandoned in the open, or were displayed openly, a clear message of peaceful intentions. These customs often lingered in the shadows, their meanings whispered rather than declared. A visitor was anticipated to grasp them through keen observation or existing understanding. Yet they held a significance that transcended mere politeness. In a delicate dance of understanding, they wove an ambience where respect flourished. Safeguarding the tender bond of trust that connected host and guest. To follow these rules was to pay homage not only to your host but also to the timeless essence of the steppe, a presence that called for reverence from all who journeyed beneath its boundless sky. On the vast expanse of the Mongolian steppe, the reception of a guest was not merely a possibility. It was an unwavering truth. Yet the offerings and their presentation transformed as the seasons danced through their cycles. The expansive grasslands danced to a melody as ancient as time itself, and the spirit of hospitality flowed harmoniously with that eternal rhythm. As the sun casts its golden rays upon the vast expanse of the steppe, the season of summer unfolded in a vibrant tapestry of life and abundance. In the verdant expanse, herds roamed freely, their grazing creating a tapestry of life. Mares and Their nurturing grace yielded creamy milk, while the Arag bags swayed gently at the Jer's entrance. A rhythmic dance that promised refreshment for all who arrived. The table was a canvas of fresh dairy delights, showcasing clotted cream, yogurt, and curds, all accompanied by a refreshing touch of Arag. In a time when bread flowed freely, the tables were adorned with sumptuous feasts, featuring succulent cuts of mutton or goat, inviting all to partake in the bounty of the land. Travelers arriving in summer may find themselves captivated by the easygoing social gatherings that grace the steppe, where melodies, tales, and wrestling matches weave together, stretching into the enchanting twilight hours as the leaves began to turn and the air grew crisp. A sense of readiness filled the atmosphere. As the chill of winter approached, the livestock were carefully nurtured, their bodies growing plump in preparation for the difficult days to come, and the time for slaughtering arrived with a sense of purpose. In this season, guests may find themselves graced with korkog, a robust dish of mutton, lovingly slow-cooked with hot stones nestled within a sealed pot, savory fragrance wafting through the jur. A palpable tension hung in the atmosphere. Each gathering, each meal shared, whispered of the impending embrace of winter. Then arrived the season of winter, when the steppe donned its white cloak and the wind transformed into a fierce, biting entity. In this season, the essence of hospitality intertwined with the instinct for survival, all while honoring cherished traditions. Once upon a time, fresh milk was a rare treasure. Arag transformed into a rich, salty milk tea, thickened with butter to provide warmth and energy. Meat, frequently preserved through drying or freezing in the open air, served as the main sustenance. Occasionally boiled in a straightforward manner to save on fuel, as the guests gathered near the warm glow of the hearth, their voices softened, punctuated only by the haunting wail of the wind swirling beyond the walls. To send a wanderer away in the depths of winter was a notion that simply could not be entertained. It was to lead them to their demise. Spring ushered in a delicate rebirth. As the grass gradually made its comeback, the herds resumed their milking, albeit with meager yields. The warmth of hospitality, though humble in this season, remained genuine and heartfelt. A vessel of creamy milk, a delicate slice of cheese, a whisper of brighter tomorrows on the horizon. Throughout the changing seasons, the spirit of Mongol hospitality stood steadfast and unwavering, to share what you possessed without a second thought, and to assure the wanderer that even in the harshest of terrains, warmth could still be discovered. Though the Mongol Empire has long since faded into history, the code of hospitality that once united warriors, herders, and traders continues to linger in the gur smoke rising over the modern steppe. In bustling cities like Ulaanbaatar, where the pace quickens and towering skyscrapers have taken the place of traditional yurts, venture beyond the asphalt paths. You will discover the timeless embrace of an age-old hospitality still lingering in the air. In the present day, numerous Mongol families continue their age-old tradition of nomadic living, gracefully following the rhythms of the seasons as they guide their herds, erecting their gers beneath the expansive, unending sky. A newcomer, whether they come riding a horse or roaring in on a motorbike, is welcomed in a manner reminiscent of ages past. Enveloped in warmth, offered sustenance, and granted a place of honor at the table. The Arag flows freely, the bread is shared with care, the hearth fire is honored with deep respect. Even for those who dwell in towns, the essence endures. It is a delightful occurrence for wanderers to find themselves welcomed into a home. Following a serendipitous encounter where tea and biscuits are served as tales are shared and woven together, the ancient notion endures that a visitor is a blessing from Tenjir, and to turn them away is to beckon misfortune upon oneself. This resilience is woven into the fabric of our heritage. The essence of hospitality weaves through the fabric of Mongol identity, and a vibrant thread connecting the present to the illustrious past of their forebears, while also emerging from the enduring truths of the land itself. The steppe remains a realm of harshness, where endless expanses stretch. Before you and the whims of the weather can turn in an instant, gestures of kindness hold deeper meaning. They serve as a safeguard for the moment when you may find yourself in need of refuge. In recent years, The realm of tourism has welcomed a diverse array of visitors, photographers in pursuit of that perfect golden light, historians on a quest to follow the footsteps of Genghis Khan, and adventurous backpackers eager to challenge the wild landscapes. Countless souls depart with tales of finding warmth in Gers, embraced without a prior invitation, nourished and sheltered, all without a whisper of currency exchanged. For the Mongols, this act is not merely an act of charity. It is a profound obligation, one that rises above the realms of wealth, politics, or religion. As the timeless azure expanse gazes down upon the vast steppe, they hold steadfast to the belief that the ancient traditions must endure. In this way, Mongol hospitality thrives, not merely as a charming remnant of the past, but as a vibrant, dynamic practice, capable of transforming strangers into companions, and occasionally even turning past adversaries into allies. As the leaves turned in the autumn of 1614, Japan appeared serene on the surface, yet beneath that calm lay the tension of an impending tempest. In the year 1600, a pivotal moment unfolded as Tokugawa Ieyasu emerged victorious at the Battle of Sekigahara, leading to the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate, which now held sway from the bustling city of Edo. In a moment of transition, Ieyasu stepped back from the forefront, passing the mantle of shogun to his son, observing the nation with the cautious gaze of one who understood how swiftly harmony could fracture. Only one formidable opponent stood in the way: the Toyotomi clan, which had once held the reins of power in Japan under the illustrious Toyotomi Hideyoshi. In the shadow of a great upheaval, a young boy named Toyotomi Hidori found himself at the heart of a tale marked by loss. As the Battle of Sekigahara brought an end to his family's reign, in the vibrant tapestry of his early 20s, he emerged as a beacon for those who yearned for freedom from the constraints of Tokugawa rule. Hidori stood not as a simple remnant of a bygone era. He possessed great wealth, held significant political ties, and, most perilously, was deeply rooted within Osaka Castle, the strongest stronghold in the realm. Osaka Castle stood as a testament to history, its stone walls and watchtowers whispering tales of the past. It stood as a testament to the might of Toyotomi: enormous moats, soaring walls, and granaries brimming with provisions to endure an extended siege. Merchants, masterless samurai, and ambitious lords were drawn to its shelter, swelling the ranks of its defenders. In the very heart of Japan stood a castle, its location imbued with a significance that echoed through the ages. Should a rebellion ignite, Osaka would stand as a beacon for the restless and a fortress that could not be breached. Whispers began to weave their way through the land. Soft murmurs of Toyotomi allies converging, of arms being amassed, of clandestine missives dispatched to daimyo who remained faithful to Hideyoshi's legacy. With growing concern, the Tokugawa court in Edo listened to these reports. For Ieyasu, this was not merely a matter of military threat. It was a tale of the Toyotomi emerging as a potential rival to his reign, attracting discontented warriors as if they were drawn to a flickering light in the darkness. In the public eye, the two factions upheld an appearance of decorum. In the shadows, both readied themselves for the looming storm of conflict. Ieyasu, a master of strategy, recognized that to ensure the Tokugawa shogunate thrived for years to come, the Toyotomi influence in Osaka needed to be utterly extinguished. In a realm where allegiances changed like the wind, Hidori understood that revealing any sign of frailty could spell his doom. The scene was prepared. Two formidable houses, one steeped in age and cunning, the other vibrant and rebellious, entwined in a quiet struggle of determination under the vigilant gaze of the whole realm. The delicate balance was on the verge of shattering. The journey to the siege unfolded not with an abrupt clash of swords, but through calculated maneuvers in a strategic game that Tokugawa Ieyasu mastered like no other. He understood that unprovoked hostility could sway neutral daimyo to oppose him. Instead, he sought a narrative, a compelling reason that would frame war as not merely unavoidable, but just and honorable. A temple bell rang out, igniting a spark of inspiration. In the year 1614, the Toyotomi embarked on a noble endeavor, financing the recasting of a magnificent bell destined for the Hikoji Temple in the enchanting city of Kyoto. Upon its completion, an inscription was engraved with a Buddhist prayer for peace, concluding with the phrase, "A harmless blessing to most eyes." Yet for Ieyasu, or rather for those deciphering the message on his behalf, the particular arrangement of characters could be seen as a curse directed at the Tokugawa clan, the embodiment of tranquility, sought in a manner that appeared to distance Ieyasu from the promise of longevity, and the shogunate seized upon this as proof of Toyotomi's audacity. Though it was a weak justification in the heated atmosphere of the times, it sufficed. Ieyasu's envoys brought forth accusations against Hideyori, claiming he was scheming a rebellion. Messages flew across the land of Japan, cautioning the daimyo that the Toyotomi were gearing up for conflict and needed to be confronted before they could throw the realm into chaos. In a time of shifting allegiances, numerous lords, driven by a desire to demonstrate their fidelity, or perhaps to evade the watchful eye of suspicion, commenced the provision of troops and supplies to bolster the Tokugawa cause. For Hideyori, the accusation cut deep, a blend of insult and peril that loomed. Large dot-wise councils suggested that he seek harmony, perhaps by offering hostages or reducing the defenses of Osaka Castle. Yet a bold spirit surged within the Toyotomi camp. Many held the conviction that surrendering at this moment would merely accelerate their demise. Warriors, bound by the honor of their father's legacy, surged into Osaka, among them Ronin, who had been stripped of all but their resolve. The castle's garrison grew to an astonishing 100,000 fighters, a formidable assembly marked by its sheer size, yet diverse in both discipline and loyalty. The scene was primed not for negotiation, but for a clash of wills. As autumn descended, the formidable Tokugawa army, a force of great discipline and impressive armament, began its march toward Osaka. The political bell had rung, and the ominous drums of war started to echo through the land. As the chill of late November 1614 settled in, the Tokugawa army began its fateful march. It was a power that overshadowed anything Japan had witnessed since the days of Sekigahara. Numbers swelled between 150,000 and more than 200,000 warriors, gathered from nearly every corner devoted to the shogunate, under the direct command of Tokugawa Ieyasu and his son Shogun Hitada. It advanced with the meticulous coordination of a nation poised for ultimate triumph. Yet Osaka Castle stood as a formidable challenge. In the midst of the unfolding drama, Hideyori's loyal defenders swelled to a formidable force of around 90,000 to 100,000, bolstered by the relentless tide of masterless Ronin seeking purpose. These warriors, unshackled from the ties of any lord, carried with them the weight of their battle-hardened pasts and an audacious spirit ready to charge into the fray. With the guidance of esteemed generals like Gato, Matabe, Kimura, Shigenari, and the renowned Sanada Yukimura, a master strategist of the Sanada clan, the Toyotomi forces set forth to transform Osaka into an impregnable stronghold. Behold the castle, a bastion of strength and resilience, with its formidable triple moats, towering stone walls that scrape the sky, and massive gates crafted to ensnare any would-be invaders into perilous traps of doom. Supply stores overflowed, with rice, dried fish, and other necessities, ample provisions to withstand a lengthy siege. The defenders held a steadfast belief that the biting chill of winter would work in their favor. In the vast expanse of open fields, the Tokugawa army found themselves huddled within hastily constructed forts. Bracing against the biting winds that swept in from Osaka Bay, Ieyasu's approach unfolded with careful precision instead of charging headlong into battle. He wisely commanded the creation of siege lines that would envelop the castle. From the ground, mounds of earth took shape, watchtowers reached for the sky, and the formidable presence of artillery emplacements emerged. Great cannons, many obtained through the bustling Portuguese trade routes, stood ready to unleash their might upon the sturdy walls. The aim was to ensnare Osaka, severing its lifelines and sapping the spirit of its defenders before delivering the decisive strike. Within the castle's walls, Hidari toiled to weave together the threads of unity among his varied allies. Sanada Yukimura's presence held a remarkable weight. He set about building a series of outworks called the Sanada Maru, defensive stronghold, on the southwestern side that would soon emerge as the center of some of the most intense battles in the entire campaign. As December arrived, the siege had taken hold in its entirety. Thus, night fell, the moats lay still beneath a blanket of frost, while the sharp sound of musket fire echoed through the air and the earth shuddered with the force of cannon fire. As winter descended upon Osaka, brought with it the inaugural challenge to the Toyotomi's strength against the formidable Tokugawa. Osaka Castle stood as the beating heart of the Toyotomi defense, while the Sanada Maru emerged as its finely honed spear point. Constructed by Sanada Yukimura on the southwestern approach to the castle, this fortification stood as more than just an outwork. It was a battleground, crafted to drain the Tokugawa army of their strength before they could even lay eyes on the main walls. The design of the Sanada Maru was truly clever, circled by its own protective waters and linked to the grand castle by a slender pathway. It provided the defenders with the perfect vantage point to unleash their fury upon any bold intruder who dared to draw near. Lofty earthen walls stood tall, their surfaces alive with the presence of matchlock gunners, while hidden spots unleashed a storm of arrows and bullets from surprising directions. In the chill of early December, the Tokugawa, driven by a thirst for challenge, set forth with a flurry of assaults to probe the defenses. Though the odds were stacked against them, Yukimura's warriors, clad in their iconic red armor that spoke of their fierce resolve, held their ground with unwavering determination. As the relentless tide of assailants surged forward, they became ensnared in the thick, clinging mud, while others struggled to ascend the steep, unforgiving slopes, all the while besieged by a hail of gunfire. With a thunderous roar, arquebuses unleashed their fury in synchronized bursts, felling samurai as they surged forward with fierce determination. As the enemy approached, the defenders rallied with their spears and swords, driving them back into the deadly traps laid before them. The defenders found themselves bolstered by the formidable cannons that were strategically positioned within the Sanada Maru, from the abundant reserves of Hideyori. These formidable guns unleashed a relentless barrage upon the Tokugawa siege works, ripping through their defenses and sending their soldiers into disarray. The impact on the mind was as powerful as the harm done to the body. The Tokugawa soldiers felt a growing unease at the mere thought of being commanded to advance on the redoubt. One assault unfolded in chaos as the attackers eager to breach the walls were unexpectedly confronted by a fierce countercharge spearheaded by Yukimura himself. His presence on the field, inspiring his men with a steady yet resolute spirit, became the stuff of legends. The Tokugawa forces were repelled, the earth strewn with the fallen and the injured. For Ieyasu, the Sanada Maru was a persistent thorn that would not yield. Weeks of relentless siege had not managed to breach its walls, and with each unsuccessful attempt, the defenders within Osaka Castle grew ever more resolute. In the midst of the bitter cold, Yukimura's men thrived. Their intimate knowledge of every inch of their fortification, allowing them to rotate shifts seamlessly, ensuring fresh fighters stood vigilant on the walls. As mid-December approached, the Tokugawa commanders recognized that a direct assault on the Sanada Maru would not yield success. Should the mighty Osaka Castle meet its fate, it shall not be through the gate of Yukimura, as the direct assaults on Osaka Castle faltered, particularly the harrowing defeats at Sanada Maru. Tokugawa Ieyasu turned his attention from breaching the fortress to undermining the resolve of its defenders. If he could not force the gates open with the might of steel, he would relentlessly batter them into submission with the weight of stone and iron. As December 1614 approached its midpoint, the siege lines of Tokugawa stood formidable, adorned with a fearsome array of artillery. These were cannons of extraordinary craftsmanship, unlike any other from Japan. Numerous items found their way into the hands of eager buyers, either acquired from Portuguese merchants or skillfully transformed from European blueprints. Great heavy culverins and nimble swivel guns were carefully positioned on elevated earthworks. their sights set not just on the outer defenses but also on the very heart of the castle itself. The mission was unmistakable: to transform Osaka into a realm where the very act of surviving seemed akin to surrender. From dawn till dusk, the relentless bombardment commenced. The thunderous cannon fire echoed through the frigid air, each blast accompanied by the shattering of wood, the crumbling of stone, and occasionally the haunting cries of those ensnared in the devastation. The structures within the castle compound, storehouses, barracks, and even homes were reduced to rubble. Fires erupted, casting dark clouds of smoke that danced against the frigid heavens. Yet Ieyasu's approach transcended mere physical annihilation. The unrelenting clamor, the restless hours, and the mounting feeling of despair were designed to chip away at the spirit. Though shielded by sturdy walls and deep moats, the defenders could never truly find peace. With each passing hour, the air thickened with the tension of impending doom, as the specter of another lethal blow loomed ever closer. Whispers of intrigue and manipulation swirled in the air, fueled by the cunning agents of Tokugawa. Whispers of hope slipped through the shadows or echoed across the water, cuing those who would forsake Hidewari and pledge their allegiance to the shogunate with the promise of mercy. Some defenders waved them away with disdain. Some, particularly the more fickle Ronin, started to question whether the battle was truly worth the price of their lives. Within the walls of Osaka, Hidari and his commanders endeavored to resist this attack on their very essence. Gatherings took place to pay tribute to the brave souls who had fallen in battle. Food was shared abundantly to uplift spirits. Sanada Yukimura pressed on with his inspections of the walls, a testament to the enduring strength of his leadership. Yet the heaviness of the siege lingered in the air. The inhabitants of Osaka Castle found themselves caught in a struggle that transcended mere military conflict. It was a relentless, wearisome assault on their very senses. Ieyasu understood that, in the art of siege warfare, triumph frequently favored those who could withstand the suffering the longest, and he placed his faith in the Tokugawa. As December 1614 drew to a close, the relentless bombardment had left. Its marked Osaka Castle remained a steadfast sentinel, its main walls and moats enduring through the trials. Yet the scars on its outer defenses and the relentless weight of psychological turmoil were unmistakable. Tokugawa Ieyasu, a master of strategy, understood that persisting with the siege during the harshest winter could deplete his troops and empty his treasury. Instead, he aimed to conclude the campaign in a manner that would diminish the Toyotomi's power, all while avoiding the violence of a final attack. Messengers journeyed forth, bearing the symbols of peace. In the grand tapestry of events, the discussions were presented as a chance to weave harmony back into the fabric of the realm. In truth, each side came to the table with their own distinct aspirations. For the Tokugawa, the goal was to unravel Osaka's capacity for future defiance. For Hideyori, the quest was to safeguard his clan's legacy and maintain the fortress's stronghold for as long as fate would allow. Amidst the charged atmosphere, the negotiations unfolded with palpable tension. In a decisive move, the Tokugawa ordered the filling of Osaka Castle's grand outer moats and the scaling back of its formidable fortifications. The representatives of Hideyori stood firm against the tide, yet the relentless pressure of the siege and the deep-seated urge to safeguard the innocent weighed upon their hearts like a heavy shroud. As the supplies dwindled and the spirit of the Toyotomi leaders began to wane, they found themselves at a crossroads. Ultimately choosing to embrace a peace settlement, the terms appeared clear and uncomplicated. In a moment of restraint, the Toyotomi chose to hold back from military engagement, while the Tokugawa decided to pull back their troops. Yet, Ieyasu had woven a vital advantage into his plans. As the moats were filled and the mightiest outer defenses were dismantled, the once formidable stronghold of Osaka Castle would find its protective power diminished beyond repair. In the days that followed, diligent work crews arrived to fill the moats with earth and rubble, transforming the landscape with their labor. The defenders, perhaps feeling a sense of relief at the cessation of relentless cannon fire, remained unaware of the profound strategic calamity that lay before them. As the last remnants of winter's chill faded away and the season of fervent, Campaigning approached, the stronghold would stand exposed, ripe for a fresh onslaught. As the dawn of New Year's approached, the Tokugawa army commenced its retreat. With the final echoes of the winter campaign fading away, a new chapter awaited Osaka. Had endured Hidori held steadfast in his castle, and to the untrained eye, the tranquility appeared authentic. Yet, hidden beneath the courteous words of the agreement was a reality that both parties were keenly aware of. The clash was merely on hold, not resolved. The castle stood diminished, its once fearsome presence now a shadow of the past, and Ieyasu was resolute in his determination to eliminate the Toyotomi menace once and for all. The forthcoming campaign would prove to be pivotal. The winter campaign concluded with the falling snow. Yet the tranquility in Osaka was but a delicate mirage. Within the castle's embrace, the rhythm of life began to weave itself back into a familiar pattern. Fires danced to life, unafraid of. The distant echoes of cannon fire, markets buzzed back to life, and the rhythmic clatter of repairs filled the air. A welcome change from the storm of conflict. Yet all were aware that the truce was but a fragile veneer. Concealing the tumultuous depths beneath, the treaty's insatiable grip had hollowed out the castle's once mighty defenses. The grand moats that once stood as formidable barriers against the Tokugawa forces had dwindled to mere shallow ditches or flat earth, rendering the walls vulnerable to an imminent attack. In hushed tones, some of the Toyotomi retainers murmured that agreeing to such terms was a grave error, while others fervently argued it was the sole path to spare Osaka from ruin in the cold of winter. In the face of this vulnerability, Hidori and his commanders set forth on a path of preparation, bracing themselves for the looming specter of renewed conflict. Weapons were meticulously repaired and restocked, while skilled ronin were once more summoned from the far reaches of Japan. Among them, the renowned Sanada Yukimura dedicated himself to the task of fortifying the Sanada Maru, tirelessly enhancing the remaining defenses. In the absence of moats, the defense would rely on smaller bastions and intense skirmishes in close quarters. The Tokugawa, ever vigilant, seized upon any opportunity to shatter the fragile peace. In the shadows of Kyoto and Osaka, Ieyasu's agents meticulously chronicled each stir within the castle walls. Every fresh warrior's arrival and the hushed conspiracies that danced through the air. Whispers of intercepted letters danced through the air, igniting tales of the Toyotomi's secretive schemes to unite the discontented against the Tokugawa across the land. As spring approached, the air thickened with tension in the political landscape once again. Ieyasu leveled accusations at Hidori, claiming he had breached the peace terms, citing the enlistment of additional ronin as evidence of his aggressive intentions. The truth of the matter, or the lack thereof, was of little consequence. The shogunate possessed everything required to paint a compelling picture of war to the daimyo. In Osaka, the Toyotomi court engaged in a passionate debate. Some encouraged Hidori to seek dialogue once more, to dispatch hostages to Edo in a final effort for peace. Some contended that the Tokugawa would stop at nothing to obliterate the Toyotomi name, leaving resistance as the sole noble course of action. As the early summer of 1615 unfolded, the moment for discussion had passed. Once again, the Tokugawa armies stirred to life, gathering strength beneath the inviting embrace of the campaigning season's warm skies. As the warmth of summer approached, a pivotal moment loomed for Osaka Castle, marking it as the final bastion in an unfolding saga. In the month of May, in the year 1615, the formidable Tokugawa army advanced once again toward the city of Osaka, this time with a resolute determination that left no room for negotiation. The might was staggering. A grand assembly of over 150,000 warriors, comprising samurai, ashigaru, and allied domain troops hailing from every corner of Japan. Leading the charge were Shogun Hitada and the vigilant Tokugawa Ieyasu, resolute in their mission to eliminate the looming threat once and for all. The Toyotomi, despite their smaller numbers, had been far from inactive. Hidori assembled a formidable force of approximately 55,000 defenders, a significant number of whom were seasoned ronin, shaped by the trials of their years spent wandering. Sekigahara, leading the charge, was Sanada Yukimura, once more entrusted with the vital duty of fortifying the castle's defenses, even in the face of the missing protective moats. With a bold approach, he planned to confront the Tokugawa on the battlefield, striking before they could completely surround the castle. In the unfolding saga, the first significant confrontation erupted at Damyoji, as the Toyotomi forces, led by Goda Matabe, sought to impede the relentless march of the Tokugawa. Matabe's troops engaged in a valiant struggle, yet the chaos of their coordination, coupled with the sheer might of the enemy's numbers, ultimately compelled them to withdraw. In the midst of the turmoil, Matabe met his tragic end, a blow that struck deep into the heart of Toyotomi's spirit. In the midst of the unfolding drama at Yao and Wakai, other detachments of Toyotomi sought to outmaneuver the flanks of the Tokugawa forces. In a tale of bravery and cunning, Sanada Yukimura commanded a valiant force, launching a series of audacious counterattacks. With an intimate understanding of the land, skillfully harried and hindered the advancing enemy, weaving a narrative of resistance and strategy. With the swiftness of a thunderstorm, his red-armored troops descended upon the battlefield, delivering devastating blows before retreating to evade encirclement. In the midst of valiant efforts, the relentless tide of Tokugawa forces began to reveal its true strength. The disappearance of the moats allowed the enemy to advance their siege lines, perilously near to the very heart of Osaka Castle. The thunderous roar of cannon fire reverberated through the walls, as the determined Tokugawa sappers toiled tirelessly to breach the gates from beneath. As June reached its zenith, the Tokugawa's hold grew ever more resolute. Daily skirmishes broke out, as the defenders bravely launched sorties to set fire to siege works and disrupt supply lines. Yet each daring attempt came at a cost, taking away men that the Toyotomi could not afford to lose. Within the castle walls, a palpable tension hung in the air, yet a steadfast determination prevailed. Should they stumble, mercy would be a distant dream, never to be granted. With the dawn of summer, the campaign ignited in a blaze of chaos, as the grip around Osaka grew ever more constricting. With the stage meticulously arranged, the moment had arrived for the pivotal clash that would shape not just the destiny of the Toyotomi, but the very future of Japan. As the sun dipped low in the sky of late June 1615, the siege had reached a dramatic crescendo. The relentless Tokugawa army advanced, their lines creeping ever closer to the castle's formidable walls. Now the thunderous roar of artillery echoed through the day and night. As flames danced through the outer compounds, the defenders found themselves with each passing hour backed into a tighter corner, their options for retreat dwindling like the fading light of day. Sanada Yukimura, the indomitable spirit of the Toyotomi resistance, sensed the approaching twilight, yet he would not yield without a final valiant confrontation. In a pivotal moment, the Battle of Tennogi unfolded just beyond the southern gate of Osaka. Yukimura, with a fierce determination, orchestrated a bold counterattack, galvanizing his troops clad in red armor into a relentless charge that briefly shattered the ranks of the Tukwa. While in a dazzling display of audacity, a move was made that teetered on the brink of folly. For a fleeting instant, hope flickered that the Toyotomi could shift the balance of battle. Yet as fate would have it, the overwhelming forces of the enemy encircled them. And amidst the turmoil, Yukimura fell, his life extinguished in the fray. His final words, urging his comrades to persevere, resonated through the ranks even as his banner descended. In the absence of their greatest commander, the Toyotomi forces crumbled beneath the unyielding onslaught. The Tokugawa advanced with relentless determination, crashing through the faltering gates and pouring into the castle grounds like a tide of fate. Amidst the chaos, battles erupted in courtyards and corridors, where steel glimmered in the thick, swirling smoke. In a frantic dance of desperation, both civilians and warriors sought refuge. Yet, for countless souls, safety remained an elusive dream. Within the stronghold, Toyotomi Hideori and his mother Yorujime made a fateful decision to evade capture by their foes. As the flames danced and devoured the nearby structures, They embraced the ancient ritual of seppuku, choosing to end their lives with honor in the way of the warrior. The keep was engulfed in flames, its mighty timbers splintering and falling as the heavens above Osaka darkened with swirling smoke as the sun dipped below the horizon. The siege came to an end. In a decisive and merciless triumph, the Tokugawa clan emerged victorious, leaving the Toyotomi clan stripped of their political influence. While the once mighty Osaka castle now stood in desolation, the city, once alive with the hustle of trade and the richness of culture, now stood hauntingly quiet, bearing the marks of its past. For Tokugawa Ieyasu, this marked the concluding chapter in the grand saga of Japan's unification. With his adversaries vanquished, his lineage's dominion over the realm would endure for over 200 years, yet the cost was considerable. The siege of Osaka unfolded as a dramatic chapter in history, taking with it tens of thousands of lives and weaving a tapestry of both wonder and sorrow, forever etched in memory as the final grand clash of Japan's samurai era. Kutulan emerged into the world around 1260, a time when the Mongol Empire reigned as one of the most formidable and expansive dominions in history. She hailed from a lineage that traced back to Genghis Khan through her father Kaidu, the formidable Khan of the Chagatai Khanate, a sovereign whose dominion extended across vast expanses of Central Asia. This was a realm of turmoil, where the echoes of conflict reverberated through the rugged terrain and the whispers of unrest lingered in the air. Kutulan's childhood blossomed across the vast steppes, a realm where survival hinged on swiftness, power, and a deep connection to the earth beneath her feet. For a child of the Mongol steppes, existence unfolded atop a horse, where every moment was a tale waiting to be told. Horses were as vital as the very breath she took, and Kutulan found herself atop a steed long before she could take her first confident steps. From her earliest days, she embraced the traditions of her people, mastering the art of archery while racing across the plains, engaging in spirited tussles with her older siblings until the air was thick with dust, and attuning herself to the whispers of the wind and the rhythms of the herd. These were not mere distractions, in a realm shaped by conflict and constant movement. These were the vital skills that could determine survival or demise. Her father, Kaidu, found himself ensnared in an unending dance of political and military conflict with his cousins at the Great Khan's court, especially Kublai Khan in China. In this setting, Kutulan was not cradled in the opulence of a palace, but rather forged in the heart of military camps, amidst the presence of warriors, tacticians, and the ever-shifting tides of armies. The clash of steel and the cries of warriors resonated within her, like the melodies shared by the flickering flames at dusk. In the heart of Mongol culture, where strength and skill reigned supreme, the remarkable talents of Kutulan emerged, capturing the attention of all. From a young age, she displayed an extraordinary prowess, riding with endurance, wrestling with tenacity, and shooting with precision that surpassed even the older boys around her. She was not guided to embrace the conventional role of a Mongol noblewoman, orchestrating marriages and overseeing the domestic affairs of a nomadic household, but rather to hone her skills alongside her father's warriors. Her mother and the other women of the camp imparted the domestic skills befitting a noble's daughter. Yet Kutulan's fate was already weaving itself into a narrative unlike any other. In the unforgiving and fiercely competitive realm of the late Mongol Empire, her parents recognized that a daughter capable of earning respect on the battlefield held a worth equal to that of any son. As she stepped into her teenage years, Kutulan had begun to forge a name for herself, not just as Kaidu's daughter, but as a formidable warrior in her own right. As Kutulan stepped into her teenage years, the cadence of battle had already woven itself into the fabric of her existence. The Mongol Empire of her youth had transformed, no longer the formidable force it once was under the reign of Genghis Khan. In a realm torn asunder, rival factions of the royal lineage clashed in their relentless pursuit of supremacy. Her father Kaidu stood as a towering figure among these claimants, a military leader whose bold defiance of Kublai Khan thrust him into a relentless struggle against the Yuan dynasty to the east and rival Khanates to the west. In this tumultuous realm, Cuchulainn took on the role of an active participant, refusing to stand idly by. She journeyed with her father's army, not merely as a figure of tradition, but as a vital force in the unfolding tale. Campaigns unfolded as arduous journeys, with lengthy treks through arid deserts and towering mountains, unexpected encounters with enemy scouts, and grand battles where the destiny of entire regions could change in the blink of an eye. Cuchulainn emerged as a formidable presence in these realms, her bow and spear dancing in her hands with the finesse of a battle-hardened champion. Accounts from the contemporary era, especially those penned by the Venetian traveler Marco Polo, portray her as unparalleled in her domain. He asserted that she possessed the remarkable ability to capture an enemy soldier from horseback, effortlessly pulling him back to her own lines while maintaining her swift pace. This was not an embellishment intended to glorify her persona. The demands of Mongol cavalry tactics called for remarkable skills, and Cuchulainn truly shone in this arena. Her father cherished her presence, recognizing not just her prowess in battle, but also the uplifting spirit it brought to those around her. Warriors battled with fervor, aware that Cuchulainn galloped alongside them, a vibrant emblem of their mission, and testament that bravery transcended the boundaries of gender. Upon the battlefield, her white horse stood out, a beacon of strength, while her red-lined armor signified a formidable presence that commanded respect. In the midst of these campaigns, Cuchulainn forged her fierce independence and honed the tactical mind that would later etch her name in history. She mastered the art of deciphering the rhythm of conflict, predicting the adversary's moves, and delivering her blows with impeccable timing. These were not abilities gained solely through formal instruction. In the tumult of genuine battle, they were shaped where every misstep could mean the difference between life and death. In her early 20s, Cuchulainn emerged not merely as the daughter of Kaidu, but as one of his most trusted commanders, a figure of strength and loyalty in her own right. Word of her prowess as a warrior princess traveled far and wide, weaving a tapestry of admiration and envy that enveloped the lands beyond the Chagatai Khanate. In the heart of the Mongolian steppes, wrestling, known as Burk, transcended mere competition. It was a profound expression of culture and spirit. It was a grand display of might, finesse, and dignity, showcased during festivals, joyous celebrations, and the coming together of the tribes. Winning in the wrestling ring holds a glory that rivals the honor of conquering on the battlefield. For Cuchulainn, whose prowess rivaled that of the greatest warriors, it was yet another stage to showcase her remarkable abilities. In the age-old tales, Cuchulainn posed a daring challenge to the brave men of the steppe. She declared that only the one who could best her in the wrestling ring would earn her hand in marriage. This was a claim steeped in truth. In the heart of the steppes, wrestling unfolded as a fierce contest, unbound by weight divisions. Here, the challengers stood not as mere competitors, but as seasoned warriors, each one a veteran forged in the crucible of battle. Yet Cuchulainn was fully aware of her own power. After years of honing her skills in horseback riding, archery, and the demanding realities of life on the steppe, she had forged a body and reflexes perfectly suited for this very challenge. As the initial suitors stepped into the light, the matches unfolded with remarkable swiftness. Cuchulainn's technique was sharp and unwavering. With a swift motion, she would ensnare a leg, pivoting her weight in an instant, sending her rival tumbling into the dust, all while the audience's cheers still echoed in the air. Her triumphs transcended the mere physical realm, delving deep into the psyche. Every man who succumbed to her only deepened the mystique of her unmatched power. Yet, her quest extended beyond mere strength. It was a means to shape her destiny. In an era where alliances were forged through the bonds of marriage, Cuchulainn took to the wrestling mat, crafting her own destiny with each powerful move. If no man could conquer her, then no one could compel her into a union she did not desire. As her renown blossomed, a multitude of suitors ventured forth, some journeying from far-off realms for the opportunity to win her heart, yet all encountered the same destiny, cast to the earth and departed with wounded pride. The challenge transformed into a tale of lore, shared in bustling markets, and celebrated by wandering minstrels. To earn the favor of Cuchulainn, one must first cast her down to the ground. Not a single soul ever did. For the throngs, it was a captivating spectacle. For Cuchulainn, it was a declaration of intent. She would not simply be a trophy in the contests of men amidst the dusty plains of the steppe. Within the heart of the wrestling circle, she stood as her own sovereign, a force of strength, speed, and cunning that none could rival. Cuchulainn's wrestling challenge quickly evolved into a captivating saga of might and determination. The scene unfolded as a fierce battle, where fortunes and honor hung in the balance. In a bid to ward off those who might approach lightly and to lend gravity to her conditions, she unveiled a new rule. Any suitor daring enough to challenge her for her hand in marriage was required to stake 100 horses. Should he falter, they would remain in her possession. Should he emerge victorious, he would claim not only the horses, but also her heart. In the vibrant tapestry of Mongolian life, where horses are woven into the very fabric of existence, this was far from a mere wager. In the vast expanse of the steppe, horses reigned supreme, embodying transport, wealth, and the very essence of status itself. To stake 100 was to gamble with a considerable slice of one's wealth. It signified that those brave enough to confront her possessed not just a robust confidence in their might, but also a readiness to wager a modest realm of hooves. Cuchulainn truly captivated her supporters. One by one, her suitors were brought low. Their shoulders meeting the earth, the contest concluded before they could even catch their breath. With every loss, a cherished herd found its way into the hands of Cuchulainn. The white bay and chestnut horses flourished under her nurturing touch, growing in number until she was said to possess thousands. Marco Polo, a traveler of great renown, recounted tales of her remarkable feats, estimating her herd to be approximately 10,000 strong. These triumphs propelled her tale into realms far beyond the wrestling arena. She had transformed beyond the mere image of a warrior princess charging into the fray. She was the unrivaled champion, her prowess weaving a tapestry of vibrant, pulsating riches. For some, she transformed into a beacon of inspiration. For some, a wellspring of irritation. Every man who faced her in competition lost far more than just horses. He found himself in a moment of great shame before the eyes of the whole tribe. Yet, the bet was never solely driven by avarice. By setting such a formidable challenge, Cuchulainn made certain that only the truly resolute would venture forth, sifting out the timid and the unwise. It served as a means to steer the course of her destiny and marriage, neither father nor Khan could compel her to embrace. A union that had not been rightfully won in the arena, as her herd grew to a size that would be spoken of for generations. Cuchulainn's challenge transformed into a tale woven into the fabric of song and legend. Suitors continued to arrive, yet they approached with the understanding that fate was not in their favor. It wasn't mere fortune that guided her, but rather her unparalleled skill and excellence, though her wrestling triumphs earned her renown. Throughout the Mongol realm, it was in the saddle that Cuchulainn's true strength emerged, where the playful games of sport transformed into the fierce battles of war. Kaidu, her father, was forever embroiled in battles against competing khans, and Cuchulainn felt a restless urge to step beyond the shadows and into the fray. Amidst the chaos of battle, she charged forward, her red-trimmed armor shimmering under. The sun's gaze, her bow and spear poised for action, was always ready to strike. Contemporary accounts, such as those by Marco Polo, asserted that she was unparalleled in the skill of capturing foes alive while mounted on horseback. Amidst the tumult of war, she would fix her gaze on a lone rider, charging forward with fierce determination and in a swift, fluid motion. She would seize him from his mount, pulling her prize through the fray back to her comrades. This remarkable achievement called for more than mere brute force, required a delicate balance of precision, impeccable timing, and the audacity to plunge boldly into peril. Her presence in the army carried a weight that transcended mere symbolism. I do frequently relied on her to spearhead flanking maneuvers or to seize crucial strongholds amidst the chaos of battle. The warriors who followed her did so not merely due to her lineage as the Khan's daughter, but because she had consistently demonstrated her prowess in battle. With Kutulan in their midst, the warriors summoned every ounce of strength, driven by the presence of a commander who could outshine them in both sport and battle. The blend of her wrestling prowess and military accolades crafted a distinctive persona. Ilin stood as a formidable force, both in the wrestling arena and as a fierce warrior on the vast steppe. Her prowess in both realms solidified her power and independence in a manner that few women, even within the Mongol community, could attain, yet her foes held no such reverence. In the grand halls of her adversaries, Kutulan was depicted as a formidable presence, a bold spirit whose rejection of matrimonial conventions and skill in combat threatened to disrupt the delicate fabric of political alliances. With each suitor, she humiliated, and every Tak Tamish or Yuan-aligned force she vanquished, she wove a narrative of power and defiance. The daughter of Kaidu remained untamed, a wild spirit unyielding to any restraint. For Kutulan, wrestling and war danced together, each a reflection of the other, in the embrace of the sandy circle or upon the vast expanse of the plain. The guidelines were clear and straightforward. Surpass your adversary, command the battle, and hold steadfast to the territory you've conquered. Kutulan's journey was intricately woven not just by her own remarkable achievements, but also by the profound loyalty she held for her father, Kaidu Khan. The esteemed ruler of the Chagatai Khanate, Kaidu emerged as a cunning and resolute leader. A cousin and formidable adversary to Kublai Khan, the influential sovereign of the Yuan dynasty in China. Their rivalry transcended mere personal animosity. It was a monumental struggle that would determine the very fate of the Mongol Empire. Kublai welcomed the ornate customs of Chinese imperial governance, whereas Kaidu held steadfast to the age-old nomadic traditions of Genghis Khan in this intense battle for dominance. Kutulan transcended her role as a mere daughter. She stood as Kaidu's most trusted ally, a fierce force in the unfolding saga. She stood by his side during military campaigns, facing Kublai's forces and other Mongol factions that dared to challenge his reign. On the battlefield, she stood steadfastly by his side, embodying the dual roles of a fierce warrior and a wise advisor. Her keen insight cherished as deeply as her formidable strength. Her influence in the political arena reached far beyond the battlefield. In the intricate web of the Mongol system, alliances were frequently forged through the sacred bond of marriage, and Kaidu's adversaries surely perceived Kutulan as a valuable pawn in their strategic game. Her challenge in marriage to conquer her in wrestling or gain nothing served as both a political safeguard and a deeply personal decision in choosing to remain unmarried. She skillfully thwarted her father's adversaries, stripping them of any potential advantage they could have seized through her union. This act of rebellion caught the eye of many. Legends whisper of Kutulan's remarkable sway within the court, a power so profound it sparked envy and suspicion among the other nobles. Some whispered that she had crossed the boundaries of her position, while others claimed she wielded an excessive influence over her father's choices. Yet Kaidu always appeared to embrace her unwavering loyalty and undeniable skill. In his eyes, Kutulan stood as a vital figure in his quest, a guardian of the independence and rich traditions that defined their lineage within the vast Mongol Empire. Her bond with her father intertwined her fate with his political struggles. As the wars waged on, stretching the Khanate's resources and testing its alliances, Kutulan emerged as a beacon of hope, skillfully negotiating truces, rallying troops, and ensuring that wavering allies remained steadfast in their commitment. Her presence served as a vivid reminder that Kaidu's leadership drew strength from more than mere lineage. A fierce guardian stood watch, a true embodiment of the steppe's indomitable spirit. During those years, Kutulan's essence intertwined deeply with her father's mission. She stood as his guardian and champion, a beacon of hope, embodying the essence of the ancient Mongol traditions that remained vibrant and unyielding. In the year 1301, the fabric of Kutulan's existence was forever altered. Her father, Kaidu Khan, steadfast leader, who who had battled tirelessly for years to safeguard the Mongol Empire's core from Kublai Khan's grasp, passed away after a lifetime of conflict and strategic intrigue. His departure created a perilous void of authority in the Chagatai Canute, igniting the age-old question, who would rise to take the helm? Kaidu was said to have viewed Kutalin as a potential successor. She was his most trusted military commander, his closest advisor, and the child who grasped his vision for safeguarding the traditions of Genghis Khan's nomadic empire like no other. Yet, in the realm of Mongol politics, where pragmatism often reigned, the narrative was still largely shaped by the hands of male leaders. For Kutalin to rise, it would demand more than mere skill and unwavering loyalty. It would demand navigating deep-seated rivalries and the aspirations of male kin who believed they were the true heirs. The struggle for succession swiftly descended into a bitter conflict. In a swirling dance of ambition, Kaidu's sons and their male allies engaged in a relentless quest for power, weaving temporary alliances that were as fleeting as the wind. Kutalin, a figure of great reverence, found herself the subject of hushed murmurs, suggesting that her prowess in wrestling and her single status rendered her unfit for leadership. Some admired her fierce independence, seeing it as a beacon of strength, while others perceived it as a looming threat to the delicate political marriages and alliances that wove the fabric of the Khanate. Though she bore no official title as Khan, Kutalin stood as an indomitable presence. She led a devoted band of warriors, her riches immense, thousands of horses standing as a testament not only to her triumphs, but also to her capacity to honor her allies. In a world fraught with peril, she navigated the treacherous waters of steppe politics, deftly shifting her allegiances to support or oppose claimants as the tides of fortune dictated, all the while safeguarding her father's legacy and the fragile stability of the Khanate. However, the traits that elevated her to legendary status also rendered her vulnerable. Whispers of rivalry filled the air, with some asserting she was overly commanding, while others suggested she had crossed boundaries by wielding power on par with her male counterparts. In this realm, trust was a fleeting whisper, while betrayal lurked in every shadow, ever ready to strike. Kutalin's aspiration to take the helm in her father's absence gradually dimmed as the harsh truths of politics unfolded around her. A male relative, Dwar Khan, rose to prominence, uniting strength and authority. Yet Kutalin held on to her independence and power, skillfully weaving her influence into the fabric of the Khanate's politics from the shadows, never letting go of the freedom that had characterized her existence. In the years that followed her father's passing, Kutalin emerged as an indomitable presence on the vast Mongol steppe. Though she never donned the title of Khan, her immense wealth, strategic prowess in battle, and unwavering loyalty from her followers allowed her to maintain a grip on true power. She embarked on campaigns when the call arose, mediated conflicts among her allies, and upheld a level of autonomy that was uncommon for any Mongol noble, particularly a woman. Her expansive herds of horses stood as a testament to her unparalleled wrestling legacy, bestowing upon her both financial power and the means to rally warriors in times of strife. Even the Khans, who now held sway over the Chagatai Canute, moved. With caution in her presence, she was a princess unlike any other, not one to be easily commanded. However, with her influence came the heavy burden of whispers and speculation. Whispers circulated that she had at last taken a husband, perhaps for the sake of political alliances. Yet the annals of history never bore witness to such a union. Whispers of shadowy narratives floated through the air, spun by envious rivals, alleging that she harbored secret lovers or even schemed against her own blood. Though none of these tales were substantiated, on the vast steppe, whispers could wield a power as lethal as any blade. In her later years, she navigated a world of ever-changing alliances amidst a backdrop of political upheaval. Once, the vast expanse of the Mongol Empire thrived in harmony, but over time, that unity began to splinter. The Chagatai Khanate found itself grappling with not only internal discord, but also looming dangers from beyond its borders. Kutalin, a master of strategy, navigated the game with precision, offering her strength in ways that would safeguard her position and shield her people. The tale of her demise in 1306 is cloaked in enigma. Whispers of her demise swirl through the air, some attributing it to illness, while others weave tales of a darker fate assassination. It seems her fierce independence had rendered her a threat to those who wielded power. In the tales spun by the Venetian traveler Marco Polo, whispers of her remarkable adventures reached his ears while he roamed the vast Mongol territories. Yet, he penned no account of her final chapter, leaving behind only the echoes of her extraordinary existence. No matter the reality, the tale of Cuchulainn endured through the ages. She lingered in the hearts of her people as the indomitable champion, the valiant fighter, and the woman who could never be bent to the will of others, be it in love, in governance, or on the battlefield. Centuries later, her tale would ignite the imaginations of artists and writers alike. Her essence soaring forever beneath the boundless azure heavens she had devoted herself to throughout her existence. Long after her time has passed, the name of Cuchulainn continues to echo across the vast expanse of the steppe. In the vast expanses of Mongolia, Central Asia, and further afield, she stands as a beacon of defiance, carving out her existence on her own terms in a realm where power was typically gauged by the might of men and the bonds they created. She demonstrated that a woman could wield both fear and respect, not as an anomaly, but through sheer mastery. The tale of her undefeated wrestling prowess emerged as the heart of her narrative. Not a single man ever triumphed over her in the circle, and her daring wager of 100 horses for each defeat turned her into one of the most affluent and formidable figures of her era. This remarkable achievement set her apart from the lineage of Genghis Khan, intertwining physical prowess with astute political acumen. In the rich tapestry of Mongol oral tradition, Cuchulainn stands tall among the most legendary warriors of her time. She is revered for her unwavering loyalty to her father, her prowess in battle, and her steadfast determination to not be manipulated in the intricate dance of political unions. Folk songs and tales transformed her into the epitome of the resilient and self-reliant Mongol woman, a figure who radiated both grace and fierce strength. Her tale journeyed far and wide, reaching places beyond the vast steppe. Marco Polo's tales spread her renown across Europe, weaving her likeness into the fabric of legend and myth. As the years passed, her journey became the muse for tales of imagination and grand performances. One of the most renowned instances is the figure of Taranot, who graces the plays and operas of later centuries, particularly in Puccini's opera. These creations, however, have taken great liberties with her tale, transforming her contest of strength into a series of riddles and embellishing her origins from the steppes into a fantastical narrative filled with exotic allure. Contemporary historians have endeavored to distinguish between reality and embellishment, yet even the most prudent narratives portray her as an extraordinary individual. In a time when women in positions of authority often found themselves ensnared in the intrigues of court life, Cuchulainn emerged as a formidable leader, rallying her warriors to the front lines, shaping the narrative of her own marital alliances, and amassing great riches, all while holding steadfast to the cherished customs of her people. Today, the tale of Cuchulainn is shared as a blend of historical fact and a source of inspiration. She embodies the essence of a remarkable journey within the Mongol Empire, a realm often defined by its male leadership, yet allowing extraordinary women to ascend through their strength, cunning, and courage. Her life unfolded like a timeless tale, echoing through the ages, where strength transcends gender and the pursuit of freedom shines brighter than any royal jewel.